Olá pessoal, sejam muito bem-vindos a um episódio mega especial do Sapiens. Muito obrigado por nos receber aí do seu lado. Estamos diferente hoje, o negócio tá um pouco diferente. Mas sejam bem-vindos, o Sapiens completa 3 meses hoje, o 12º episódio. E para comemorar essa data especial, temos convidados também muito especiais. Hoje nós vamos receber aqui no Sapiens o Sergio Sandoval, que é engenheiro aeroespacial da NASA. Mas antes de começar esse papo maravilhoso, eu gostaria de fazer um pedido a vocês. Se você gosta do conteúdo do Sapiens, inscreva-se no nosso canal. No nosso canal de cortes é muito, mas muito importante o nosso trabalho que você curtiu o conteúdo, inscreva-se no canal. Se puder, deixe um comentário, compartilhe com a galera, vai ser muito bacana. Também tem Sapiens no Instagram, Sapiens no TikTok, tem Sapiens em tudo que é canto pra você. Se você não é da galera do vídeo, nesse momento você pode estar ouvindo agora a gente no Spotify. A nossa playlist tá maravilhosa, sempre alimentada, tá bom? Muito obrigado pelo carinho de todos vocês e podemos começar. Sérgio, muito obrigado por ter aceitado o convite. Aliás, só um parêntese aqui, acostumado com 1 a 1 no Sapiens, nós temos uma participação especial hoje de Tereza.
Olá!
Nossa tradutora, seja muito bem-vinda.
Muito obrigada.
Mega favor pra gente hoje, facilitando o nosso diálogo. Mas, Sérgio, seja muito bem-vindo. Muito obrigado por ter aceitado o convite.
Thank you. I could understand that.
Yeah, I imagine you could.
He's a Brazilian guy.
Thank you so much, Sapiens, to invite me to be here. It's amazing. I've enjoyed my stay here in Brazil. It's the first time that I'm here, and I love it. So your invitation is an honor to me. Thank you.
Good.
Então, ele agradeceu o convite por estar aqui, falou que é a primeira vez dele no Brasil e que ele tá gostando muito daqui, da cidade.
Seja muito bem-vindo, cara. Estamos muito felizes em recebê-lo. E que energia você trouxe pra cá. E não poderia ser diferente, eu gostaria de agradecer ao professor Eli Lucas, que tornou todo esse encontro possível, uma conexão Aracaju, Estados Unidos, com toda a sua rede de amizades. Ele tornou isso possível. E eu também acho que não poderia ser diferente agradecer na figura do Eli, que está organizando, e esse é um dos motivos do Sérgio estar aqui em Aracaju, a Maratona de Inovação para o Bem. Acho que é um projeto muito bonito que acompanha a Feira de Ciência Itinerante. Então o projeto, a Maratona de Inovação, ela é fantástica. E eu gostaria, Sérgio, já de início, óbvio, você é um homem da ciência. Como você enxerga projetos como o do Eli Lucas, como Feira de Ciência Itinerante, como a Maratona, de incentivar e democratizar? Como é que você percebe isso? E imagino que você seja um entusiasta de se deslocar dos Estados Unidos para cá. Como é que, se você poderia falar um pouco mais sobre isso, dessa relação com essa divulgação, levar ciência para mais pessoas?
So his question was, what do you think of this project that Eli is doing to bring education to other people? You know, about technology, and you're a man of science, so what do you think of this?
For me, it is really important to participate in projects like this. I've been in many different places that have different things like this, and I always talk with students because I love the connection. But coming here is the first time that we do this maratona, which it stands out to its name because we are really in a maratona every single day. We're working so hard. Everybody from the students to the people that are working there, we're always trying to give them the best experience. And for me, it's really important because I just tell the students, I was in your seat back in the day. 10 years ago, if you told me I was going to be working for NASA and I was going to be here in Brazil talking to you, I wouldn't have imagined. So I'm here to tell you personally that I believe in you and that you are going to make a big impact in the world. I always tell them that my work in NASA is very important to me because it's my passion, but talking to them is just as important because I think it is very necessary that we transmit the energy and we impulse them and we give them everything they need, the tools that they need so that they can succeed as well.
Então, ele falou que ele gosta muito de projetos como o de Eli e que o projeto de Eli é realmente uma maratona, porque tá todo mundo sempre correndo. Ele gosta muito dessa conexão com os alunos, né, de conversar lá, e que ele fala que 10 anos atrás estava no mesmo lugar que esses alunos estão agora, e que agora ele está trabalhando para a NASA. E ele nunca imaginou que ia estar trabalhando para a NASA 10 anos atrás. Então, acaba motivando esses alunos a, né, serem ambiciosos, a quererem algo assim.
Eu pensava muito nisso quando preparava a pauta e tentava entender um pouco da nossa conversa. Você é muito jovem, cara. 28 anos?
Mm-hmm.
Um menino. Mas eu olhava um pouco assim porque, obviamente, fui procurar. A gente vai pesquisar um pouco para entender um pouco a sua realidade, até para transmitir isso. E acho que vocês falaram uma coisa muito bonita, assim, né? Aquilo que aconteceu com você, e aí eu queria que a gente explorasse um pouco isso à frente, isso pode acontecer com qualquer um desses meninos. Então, assim, você vem de uma realidade que não necessariamente era muito confortável a você se tornar um engenheiro da NASA, e hoje você tornou isso possível. Então, olhar concretamente para você aqui ou na NASA torna um sonho possível. Realidade para você, por mérito também, mas possível para essas crianças. E você, eu até ouvi uma expressão, acompanhando o material, você é um orgulho de Tijuana. É um garoto de Tijuana, um orgulho da sua cidade. Você é mexicano. Como é que, sabe, como é que a sua história? Em um momento eu tô no México e logo em seguida eu vou para os Estados Unidos. Se você pudesse contar um pouco pra gente, como é que foi esse caminho que você percorreu?
So he first of all said that you're very young, right? And he asked, like, the place where you come from is not very comfortable, and it's not like it's very common for a person from there go to NASA. And when he was searching about you, he found out that your city, they're very proud of you. So then he asked, what was your journey? Like, how did you go from Mexico from a city in Mexico to NASA?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm 28 years old, but I have the fortune that many different things and challenges were in my path, and I was able to overcome them really early. So that's why I'm here right now, talking about my story and everything I do. Like I tell to the kids, everybody has a different path, everybody has a different story and different opportunities. Sometimes we have better opportunities than others, and it doesn't matter, but everybody has their own challenges. In my case, my family's in Mexico, and I grew up in Tijuana. I did my elementary school, middle school, and high school in Mexico. But I had the fortune that I was born in the United States because it is just so close to the city.
Então, ele falou que cada um tem sua história e que no início ele passou por muitos desafios e ele conseguiu superar eles muito cedo. Mas ele foi para a escola no México, na cidade de Tijuana. Ele fez toda a escola ali, e ele foi sortudo no fato de que a cidade é fronteira. Então isso acabou ajudando ele.
Yeah, but now, it was not necessarily easy because you might think like, oh, well, then that's very easy. He could do it. And I learned really early on that it is not an easy thing to just decide to leave your country and everything you know and go to a different place. And what happened to me is that I studied in Mexico and I had U.S. citizenship, but my parents didn't have a lot of money. They were still living in Mexico, so I couldn't pay a rent in the United States. And for the first year of my education when I started, because first of all I studied in Mexico, I had to go to a community college, which is like a pre-university, and where you can take classes and level up in your English and your math before you can transfer to a real university. I wanted to study aerospace engineering, so I had to go to this school. But because I didn't have money to pay for a rent, I had to cross the border every single day. So I used to wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning. I would go to the border to cross the border. So I would wait in line for 2 hours every day just so I can get to the front and show my passport. They go to the other side, take a train, and then go to school. So I did that every day for 3 hours in the morning, and then also on my way back. And all of this just because I wanted to get an education.
Então ele falou que talvez você pense que foi mais fácil para ele, porque ele morava na fronteira, mas apesar da cidadania americana que ele tinha, os pais dele não tinham muito dinheiro. Então ele não tinha dinheiro para pagar aluguel nos Estados Unidos. E o que ele tinha que fazer todo dia para ir para o community college, que é tipo uma pré-universidade, que você estuda, sabe? Mas não é ainda universidade. Ele tinha que acordar todo dia, 3 horas da manhã, ficar 2 horas em uma fila para cruzar a fronteira e ir para esse college. Então foi uma jornada bem complicada.
And then I guess I worked in that for like a year, and then thanks to that, I was able to like get involved in many different things. And after 1 year, I learned that you can do a lot more than just be a student. My parents didn't go to university, so my goal was just to graduate. I didn't have any guidance, and I knew barely any English. So when I started, when I started learning that you could do more things, I realized you could do a master's and a PhD, and that you can even dream about going to a very good university. So when I decided to dream, I realized I could do so many things, and I chose that if I was gonna go to university, I was gonna go to the best one that I could go to. So I picked Georgia Tech, which is the #1 aerospace engineering in the United States, and that's where I ended up transferring to. I went there, and after a few years of really putting a lot of effort, I'm just trying to make it like short, so you can ask more questions later. But basically, I put a lot of effort, and all that effort paid off. Eventually, all that effort made me realize that not because I was born in a very small city, not because I was Mexican, and not because my parents didn't have a lot of money, meant that I couldn't make a big impact in the world. And that eventually, after a lot of effort, ended up in NASA. And I can tell you more details about NASA in a little bit as well, if you want.
Então, ele falou que foi realmente uma jornada muito complicada e que os pais dele ele não tinham graduação. Então, no início, o primeiro objetivo dele era graduar. E depois ele começou a sonhar e perceber que ele podia fazer mais do que aquilo, ser mais do que aquilo. Então, ele, apesar de ser mexicano, apesar de ter nascido numa cidade pequena, ele aplicou para uma das melhores universidades de engenharia aeroespacial nos Estados Unidos, e ele conseguiu passar, e está trabalhando na NASA agora, sabe?
Então, eu já queria começar daqui, porque assim, quando a gente fala, e eu conversei com muitas pessoas, e eu até agradeço, muita gente mandou mensagem, muita gente conversou com a gente, e a primeira coisa, como assim ele trabalha na NASA? Como é que faz? LinkedIn? Você manda o seu currículo? Como é que eu chego? Eu saio daqui e eu vou pra NASA. Como é que você chegou lá?
So his question was, when he started to talk about people that he was going to interview you, people were like, what? He works in NASA? You know? And he asked, how do you get there? Do you like what do you do? How do you end up in NASA?
Yes, that same question I asked myself. Growing up, everybody just talks about like NASA, like it's this secret society that only like a few people work there, and growing up, you just think it's impossible to dream about something like that. So even when I was in university, it was something that I didn't think was possible. I thought I had to work somewhere else, and then when I was maybe 50 years old, I would start working. I had a chance, right? But when I tried to apply for NASA the first time, I was 22 years old. And the process was very difficult, but I think I was ready. I had a lot of trouble finding a job with companies because I think they were really interested in how much money can you make for me. And they were not interested in the research and the things that I cared about, which was more about the universe and other things. And really, NASA was the first one that believed in me. And when I went with them, they were really excited about all my leadership and all the things that I had done before. That when I went with them, they were like, you should apply, please go to the website and apply, send all your curriculum and everything that you have done. And then they offered me an interview, and then I got in. But I guess it's a difficult process. It's not just like that straightforward. Around 7,000 people apply to work at NASA every year. Out of those 7,000, like only 200 get an interview, and only 20 get hired every day. And I think the year that I was hired, I was the only Mexican. So the odds of just making it were really low, but also made me realize that at the end of the day, it was all the effort I had put. It was that I had that dream of making something and making an impact, and all that focus and all that determination is what at the end made me realize that you can actually dream big, and this is possible.
Então, ele falou que primeiro as pessoas acham que a NASA é algum tipo de sociedade secreta.
É.
Mas, primeiro, no início, ele teve muita dificuldade em encontrar emprego, porque todas as empresas só se importavam com quanto dinheiro você pode me fazer, sabe? E quando ele aplicou pra NASA, o pessoal da NASA ficou muito encantado com a liderança dele, com tudo que ele tinha feito antes. E ele conseguiu uma entrevista, ele mandou currículo, conseguiu uma entrevista e contrataram ele, sabe? E ele percebeu que ele só conseguiu chegar onde ele tá agora por causa dessa vontade de causar um impacto no mundo. E ele aplicou pra NASA com só 22 anos, sabe?
Uma pergunta, acho que eu não sei, acho que as pessoas não devem saber. O que faz um engenheiro aeroespacial? Tipo assim, você trabalha na NASA, legal. Mas o que você faz lá?
So his question was, what makes like a aerospatial engineer? Like, what do you do in NASA? What's your job?
Yeah, so aerospace engineering can be divided in many different things. The most basic ones are that you work with either airplanes, helicopters, or spacecraft. My dream when I started this aerospace engineering journey was to just, first of all, just to graduate. And then when I realized I could graduate, I thought, well, I want to work with airplanes. And then I started to work with some professors on different projects, and they were all related to space. So I realized I could actually work in space. So every time I tried to do something, I realized that you can dream even bigger and bigger and bigger. So yeah, at the end of the day, I was just working on space-related things. So those are kind of like the three areas that an aerospace engineer kind of works on. But at NASA specifically, a lot of people are aerospace engineers because there are so many space-related things. And what I do nowadays is that I work with the team that does all the trajectory design and also some mission design, particularly in the area of like Earth to Moon trajectories or Earth to Mars, orbits around the moon, different things like that. And my area specifically is on the very last portion of a mission, and one of the most important ones, when you have a spacecraft actually entering the atmosphere of a planet, like on Mars. You enter the atmosphere and you need that vehicle to go all the way to the landing site. So I developed the controls to make sure that that spacecraft goes through the atmosphere and then activate some rockets to be able to slow it down all the way to landing. And the idea is that we want to make this more fuel efficient, but at the same time, we want to make it safer for astronauts, so very cost effective. Specifically, that's what I do right now.
Então, o que ele faz agora, ele trabalha nessa área de trajetórias, tipo da Terra para a Lua, ou orbitar a Lua.
Muito legal.
Ou entrar, tipo, na atmosfera de um planeta, tipo Marte, eu ia falar Mars, tipo Marte, né? Que o veículo, ele tem que estar seguro para astronautas e ele também não pode gastar muita gasolina. E ele trabalha nessa área específica agora. E ele falou também, antes de falar isso, que no início da carreira dele, ele começou a trabalhar com esses professores e ele percebeu que tudo que ele estava fazendo era relacionado ao espaço, sabe? Então foi assim que surgiu a ideia de trabalhar com o espaço, realmente.
Não, isso é muito legal, porque assim, tudo que envolve a NASA envolve um certo misticismo, sabe? Eu conversava com meu pai antes da entrevista, eles são tipo o FBI, serviço secreto, o que eles fazem? É tudo muito misterioso. Eu queria, rapidamente, se você puder falar, porque quando a gente imagina alguém que trabalha na NASA, você imagina, sei lá, tipo um bando de gênios, sabe? Um grupo de gênios. Eu não consigo, até brinquei com a Teresa hoje no colégio. É como se ele fosse um personagem do The Big Bang Theory. É mais ou menos assim?
So he said, everything that involves NASA has some mysticism, you know, in it. And he was talking to his dad, and his dad said, it's like he's like the FBI or something, you know. And then we were talking, and he said that, oh my God, I imagine him as like a Big Bang Theory, you know, character. So his question, wait, what?
Como é que é esse grupo de trabalho? Como é o dia a dia lá? São pessoas que só ficam gênios estudando, fazendo cálculos, ou vocês fazem outras coisas?
So how's your day-to-day life in NASA?
Yeah, so regularly the type of person like you would imagine is that, and I guess some of people are like that, but just in general, in every single place that you go. But the majority of the people that are in leadership and that grew up to become like more people like that are in charge of different missions and things like that, managers, supervisors, all those things, are looking for specific types of people. The people that they hire as civil servants, which is the position that I have, to actually work for NASA and the government, are the type of character that really is well-rounded. That's what we call it in the United States. And it's a person that is not only really good in school, but he also has other interests, like music or reading or doing sports. So in general, you go there and you see the people that work at NASA, and we're always trying to just do many different things at the same time and also have a lot of fun. And you can read stories of the people that work at NASA before during Apollo days, and they used to party a lot, you know. So it's things that you wouldn't expect, but at the same time, it's because you are also in this mood that you're really relaxed, that you really enjoy what you're doing, that the mission is just so excited that it keeps you moving. I'll give you an example. Astronauts, you realize when you work there that there are people as well. And we have a lot of times that we have time to spend with them before they go on missions to space. We have like a cake ceremony where they go and cut the cake like if it was their birthday. I've had times that we just play soccer with astronauts, and it's really fun, you know, just to have fun and relax. When they come back from their missions from the International Space Station, they show pictures and videos of fun things that they did in space. So we're really like a family more than anything, and like a family, you have all kinds of people, but we're definitely people that like to enjoy life more than anything.
Então ele falou que as pessoas que trabalham na NASA são seres humanos, como nós, mas que um padrão lá é que as pessoas que trabalham lá são geralmente pessoas muito completas. Então elas têm vários interesses diferentes. Alguns gostam de ler, outros de pintar, jogar futebol. E por falar em jogar futebol, ele falou que trabalhar na NASA também é muito divertido. Ele até já jogou futebol com astronautas. E quando os astronautas chegam da estação espacial, eles mostram foto, sabe? Ele falou que se você for falar, tem gente que trabalha na NASA que falou que era muita festa lá, sabe? Então é muito divertido, é um ambiente muito leve.
Muito bom. Vê, a gente fala muito quando imagina a NASA, e óbvio, o imaginário popular é do cinema, da televisão, tem ficção científica, tem muito disso. E a gente fala muito sobre a ida à Lua, a missão Marte, o James Webb, o novo telescópio, as imagens, incrível. Salvei várias aqui, inclusive. Mas eu queria que você pudesse comentar um pouco, e até pela sua vivência, que tipo de impacto, a gente fala muito da tecnologia espacial, mas que tipo de impacto que vocês produzem lá que interfere ou diretamente estão relacionados à nossa vida aqui na Terra? Acho que isso poderia ser uma explicação interessante, né?
So he said that, you know, when we think about NASA, we think about sci-fi movies or the James Webb telescope or going to the moon or to Mars. But what it is that you do in NASA that interferes in our lives on Earth?
Everything that we do at NASA interferes with our life on Earth. Everything that we do is specifically to help our human race here on Earth. It's nothing that we do doesn't have a specific purpose. And one thing I really like to talk about is how I think this whole idea of going to space started with different motives back in the 1960s. But when Neil Armstrong stepped on the moon and they were able to see Earth without borders and realized how big was this effort to send humanity to the moon, they realized that what they were doing was a lot bigger than they thought. And that's the biggest reason why we went back and why we nowadays send a lot of missions to the entire solar system. And we send telescopes to understand the universe because we want to understand where we come from and what's out there. What are we sharing with different planets? We want to send satellites as well to measure climate change on Earth and how can we protect our Earth. The way I like to think about NASA, even though it's in the United States, it's that the resources are there, but it's really an organization for the world. Because I don't think there's a single country in the world that hasn't been affected in a good way by a discovery of the universe. Textbooks change, lives of people change, all of it thanks to things that have been discovered by NASA. And that's without counting all the experiments done on the International Space Station, all the discoveries of different experiments that are done there, or also inventions of technology that they have done to bring it back down to Earth. For example, the drills that have batteries, they were invented because astronauts needed a way to have drills outside the International Space Station. So advancing technology that later helps Earth is something that we do every single day over there.
Então ele falou que tudo que eles fazem na NASA interfere com a vida na Terra. Que tudo que eles fazem tem um propósito específico para ajudar os seres humanos a entenderem como o universo funciona, sabe? Ele falou que talvez nos anos 60 tenha começado com um objetivo diferente, mas quando o homem pisou na Lua e viu a Terra sabe, só viu a Terra, ele percebeu que quão importante era realmente aquilo que ele estava fazendo. E tudo que eles fazem, mandar telescópios, sabe? Literalmente tudo é para ajudar a gente a entender o universo.
É porque o que vocês fazem, vocês estão mudando a história, né? O que vocês vão colocar ali vai impactar a dimensão de qualquer pessoa, assim. Porque a gente imagina um mundo, e aí não tem como, a NASA é uma instituição do governo americano. Estou correto. Só que aquilo não tem fronteiras. Aquilo vai impactar no México, no Brasil, na África, na Ásia, na Oceania, em qualquer outro lugar. Então isso é incrível, porque não é só... Óbvio, interfere diretamente nos Estados Unidos. Obviamente isso interfere sistemas de segurança, militares e tudo mais. Mas isso é para o mundo. Tem um impacto local de segurança, normal, do Estado americano, mas também é para o mundo, né?
So he was saying that NASA, it's from America, it's an institution in America, but it interferes with everything in the world. You know, every country is affected by what you guys discover. And... Peraí, como foi a pergunta?
É só essa
Era
questão
só um
de como se a gente não olha mais para fronteiras, né? Mas sim para a humanidade, de uma forma geral. Até mesmo para cuidar de um futuro da humanidade. Acho que esse é...
That we don't look at borders anymore, we look at humanity. And to take care of humanity. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think all the missions that we have in the purpose, like when we go into the NASA center, we are all there for a mission. It doesn't matter what you believe in or anything that you do. We're all there really focused on the mission, and we see Earth all the time. And when we go inside mission control, it's where we control the International Space Center, and we see astronauts floating, and we see where they are on Earth.
Yeah.
We see the sphere of Earth. We don't see just a camera on the United States. So I think for everybody that works there, indirectly, you care about the world.
Então ele falou que todo mundo que trabalha na NASA se importa com o mundo. Quando eles vão ver, por exemplo, o ônibus espacial, eles não veem uma câmera que está apontada para os Estados Unidos. É uma câmera apontada para o mundo. Então, eles realmente se importam com a humanidade, com o mundo inteiro.
Bacana. E pensando assim em algumas questões, não sei se você pode falar sobre isso. Você está trabalhando agora em algum projeto especificamente?
He said he doesn't know if you can talk about this.
It's a mystery.
It's like confidential. But are you working in any projects at the moment?
Yes, I'm always working on different projects, all related to future missions. For what I do is usually missions that are, well, actually kind of work on both sides, like missions that are coming soon and missions for the future, because I'm currently also doing a PhD, so I'm also trying to develop the technology of the future. But currently I'm working also with a team that is making sure that Artemis 1 and all of the Artemis missions are working properly. And there are still a lot of details to figure out before we send the first humans to land on the moon in the next couple of years. So, yeah, that's mainly one of the last things that I've been doing, participating in a lot of simulations for Artemis 1, sitting in the back room of mission control, so with a lot of engineers trying to solve any problems that might arise during the launch, and also did some simulations for Artemis when it comes back on Earth and does all the entry and all the way to splashdown. So yeah, I think it just divides in a lot of things all the time. But a lot of the things that I do are a lot of research and development to find the technology of the future and how we can make sure that once we are able to land on the moon, we're able to transfer all that technology and be able to land on Mars.
Então, ele falou que, além de estar fazendo um doutorado, ele trabalha com a tecnologia do futuro. Então, uma coisa que ele está fazendo agora é revisando, vendo se está tudo certo para o projeto Artemis.
Sim.
Que é para ver o homem pisar na Lua novamente e vendo se está tudo certo para que não ocorra nenhum erro. E no futuro também a chegada do homem em Marte.
Ah, isso é muito legal. Eu adoro.
É muito legal.
Eu adoro esse assunto. Eu tenho muitas perguntas, estou tentando me controlar porque eu estou muito empolgado. Mas assim, e aí aproveitar que você tocou no projeto Artemis e a questão da Lua principalmente, porque em sala de aula a gente trabalha com as aulas de história, as aulas de, enfim, de política. Imagina o seguinte, o homem... Eu recebi uma pergunta, eu não sei como é que vai ser. E a gente foi ou não foi pra Lua? Eu sei que você recebe muito tipo de pergunta. E eu já queria começar por aí. Antes de jogar minha pergunta. O homem foi à Lua?
So, when we were talking in class, he's my teacher, so, when we were talking in class, we end up debating some space-related stuff, and there's a lot of, conspiracy theories about, did the men really went to the moon? What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, I think all of this arises of the same mystery of NASA and everything. I don't doubt that there's people that even don't believe that NASA exists or something, but because it is so big, I think because it is so incredible to even imagine that something like that is possible. It's been so long, and you start doubting if we actually made it, because you'll think we should have gone again or things like that. But the situation is that going to space is very hard. Yeah. Going to the moon is harder. It's so challenging. So even talking about Mars is super, super difficult. But as you move along and you realize that the amount of money they used to give to the program back in the day, it was very different to what we have right now. So what we have to do with the little money that we have right now really makes us advance technology a lot faster so we can do things a lot cheaper. But I work with a lot of people that were there doing the space shuttle, and I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of people that were in Apollo. I know Gene Kranz. If you have seen Apollo 13, Gene Kranz was the flight director that saved the crew to come back to Earth. And he was also the flight director that was there when we did the first moon landing. I've had conversations with him. I had conversations with one of the Apollo 13 astronauts, Fred Hayes, I believe his name. And all these stories, and knowing them in person, I know what they do. But most importantly, I know the work that I do every day. So I cannot, it's really hard to explain, but if I do it every single day, it's like if you work as a car mechanic and they tell you that cars don't exist or something. It's like, well, it's right there. I see it every single day. But yeah, a lot of the things and theories can be explained. But I think this arises just from the fact that it was so incredible that we were able to land on the moon that it is hard to believe. But yeah, it's real. I mean, we walked on the moon.
Ele disse que acha que essas teorias da conspiração surgem daquela mesmo misticismo que tem com a NASA, e que é algo tão incrível, sabe? Ir à Lua, o homem pisar na Lua, que tem pessoas que acabam não acreditando. Ele falou que essas teorias da conspiração é como se você fosse um mecânico de carro e te falassem que um carro não existe, mas o carro tá bem ali, sabe? Ele falou que ele já conversou com pessoas que participaram da Apollo 13 e que foi uma ótima experiência, e que aquilo tá ali presente na vida dele todos os dias, sabe?
E aí eu queria chegar assim, porque eu tenho, durante o século XX, na segunda metade do século XX, eu tenho uma corrida espacial, principalmente no contexto de Guerra Fria, entre Estados Unidos e União Soviética. A União Soviética lança um satélite, os Estados Unidos... Aquela disputa. Os Estados Unidos levam o homem à Lua. Ponto. O homem foi à Lua. A tecnologia avançou muito dos anos 60 para cá. E a tecnologia ela ficou muito mais acessível para todas as pessoas. Por que nós não voltamos à Lua? É só pela corrida espacial que não existe mais? Ou existem outros motivos?
So he started to talk about the Cold War, and when United States sent the men to the moon, it ended, right? And technology advanced a lot during the years that have, gone by. And why haven't we returned yet?
Yeah, while you were asking the question, it just came to my mind a great way in which I can explain it. Is that the same reason that I explained before, is that when you do something for the first time and you want to keep trying different things, you cannot keep doing the same thing forever. And also, even the public interest fades sometimes. When they were doing Apollo 13, and like you saw in the movie, many people weren't even interested anymore, and we were already sending humans to the moon. So that was an important part as well. But also we wanted to try different things, and we just have certain amount of money, so we need to allocate it for different things. We wanted to build a space shuttle and make an international space station, and we made it, and it's been the biggest and most challenging human-made machine. It's the size of a football field, and it's orbiting the Earth every single day, and that's just incredible as well, but it costs a lot of money as well. Right now we want to go back to the moon and then go back to Mars, so we are trying to transfer that to commercial partners so that they can start sending astronauts to the International Space Station, while we focus on developing the technology to go to Mars and the moon. And I guess a way to explain it is that even if you had the same amount of money, it's like if you save a lot of money to buy a house, and then you have the house and you think about, okay, now I want to have a car. And then you have kids, now I have to send them to school. And so you have different priorities and your life is changing. And somebody comes to you and says like, well, you bought one house, why don't you buy another one? And you're like, well, because I have other things that I also need to pay. So it's like if somebody comes and keeps asking you like to buy houses every single time, you have to prioritize and change. You have to try different things. And if we want to explore the solar system and try new things, we have to make sacrifices. Also, it has to be the right time and the right moment. And we realize that to go to Mars, there are a lot of things that we still need to learn from the moon. And that's why we also shifted to go back to the moon. I mean, we tried many different things. We developed many different algorithms and technology. But at the end of the day, we're also humans. And we understand that sometimes we have to do a step back, learn a little more again before we can take a leap forward.
Então ele falou que um dos principais motivos é que a NASA quer tentar coisas novas. Então, por exemplo, eles fizeram a Estação Espacial Internacional, que é do tamanho de um campo de futebol e orbita a Terra todos os dias. E é a máquina mais completa, mais complexa, desenvolvida por um ser humano.
E sempre com um astronauta em órbita, né?
Uhum. Sempre com astronautas. E ele falou que é como se você fosse comprar uma casa, depois você quer comprar o carro, depois você tem filhos e bota eles na escola, e as pessoas ficam, por que você não compra outra casa? Porque você tem outras prioridades. Ele falou também que a quantidade de dinheiro diminuiu e que... É só isso.
Mas imagina assim, o que você imagina, estando lá na NASA, como é que você imagina o futuro da corrida espacial?
Like, he asked, being in NASA, how do you imagine the future of the space run?
I guess the future of space exploration in general, I think, is going to change a lot our lives, especially in the following years. Next time that we send astronauts to the moon with Artemis 3, so we're going to send the first woman to land on the moon. And I think just to think back in the 60s, you couldn't even think about becoming an astronaut if you were not in the military. And now to think that people that are not even military, that are just scientists, and also a woman, to think that nowadays we're in a society that would allow that, just tells you how much we have moved forward. I think a lot of kids from all over the world are gonna get really excited, and guess I cannot even explain, I guess, all the changes that I expect to happen, because maybe I expect a jump in education, a jump in people who really wanted to do science, becoming engineers, but also the way we see the moon as something that we can achieve, and that with our commercial partners we can actually get to the moon and try to make trips to the moon more of our reality, without the need of NASA, and expanding onto Mars. Yeah, so I think there's going to be a lot of excitement and also a lot of growth, and opportunities for many people to start working in this field.
Então ele acha que vai ter um crescimento de oportunidades para pessoas que querem trabalhar nesse campo. Então, por exemplo, a primeira mulher vai à Lua. Ninguém imaginava isso nos anos 60. Uhum. E você não precisa nem ser mais um militar. Para ir à Lua, você só precisa ser um cientista. E ele realmente espera que ocorra um impulsionamento na educação para que mais pessoas queiram fazer ciência e mais pessoas queiram trabalhar nesse campo.
One more thing is that, for example, right now one thing that I love about the Artemis program is that we put out this announcement, and like any country that wants to join the mission can sign the agreement and be part of the mission. And they have really tried to promote that. And we have our partners that we have had for years and that they are joining, and we're trying to make them part of the mission in really important developments. For instance, one of the stories that I love is that the JAXA, which is the Japanese space agency, wanted to join it as well. And they are thinking that in the future, when they actually start sending habitats and robots and different things, before the rover that was on the moon was developed in the United States. But now they thought that Japan has this amazing company that is Toyota that can make so many amazing cars, that they are looking at that as a way to bring them in and have Toyota develop the next rovers that are going to be on the moon. So this effort is really becoming of the entire world. And we're trying to bring our partners, even though we can develop the technology, we're really making an effort to leave other countries to do certain parts of the project so that we can all do it together as humanity.
Então ele falou que uma coisa que ele ama sobre o projeto Artemis é que qualquer país do mundo pode assinar o acordo e ser parte dele. Então tem essa história do Japão, que eles vão ser parte do projeto Artemis, e o Japão percebeu que eles têm a Toyota, que desenvolve carros incríveis, e então eles têm a tecnologia para desenvolver rovers também.
Tipo, Mars Rovers, né?
Mais rovers. E então isso tá virando um esforço, não apenas dos Estados Unidos, não apenas da NASA, mas do mundo inteiro. E ele acha isso muito legal.
Muito bom. E como é que você enxerga, estando... Veja, o mundo acompanha isso, mas estando na NASA, como você enxerga iniciativas, por exemplo, como a do Jeff Bezos, do Elon Musk, na corrida, não sei se corrida espacial, mas nesse mercado, que para eles é um mercado, nesse mercado espacial, como é que a NASA enxerga isso?
So he asked about how do you view these efforts by Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk in this like space, field?
I think they're very important. When things start to develop like that, and it's all a change, you gotta understand it a little bit and go a little deeper on how these things are going on, how they happen. And like I mentioned before, in order to be able to develop a lot of new technology to go to Mars or to go to the moon, we actually need to work with partners, and because that helps us alleviate a little bit of the weight. And it's really, when you look at the history and how things have worked all over the years, during Apollo 11 and the first moon landing and the Apollo program in general, a lot of different companies were helping NASA develop the technology that we had. A lot of different companies were developing the engines, the rocket, the moon lander. It's just that maybe, I don't know, during that time, it was more maybe secretive, but also we have a lot of social media, So I guess these companies are really excited to show everything they're capable of doing. So you see a lot of more presence of them out there. But at the end of the day, they are partners. The reason why these companies started to grow is because NASA really believed in them and wanted them to grow so that eventually they could be independent. For a long time, they depended on money from NASA. And now the fact that they are independent and they can do their own missions and people hire them, it's a really good thing for the space industry because it means that we're progressing and it means that we're growing, and that's only gonna make it better and more of a reality that we can get to the moon a lot faster.
Então ele falou que esse apoio é muito bom para a indústria espacial e que o Elon Musk e o Jeff Bezos, eles são parceiros, sabe? E até nos anos do Apollo 13 tinha esses parceiros, só que era um pouco mais secreto. Uhum. E hoje em dia a gente tem as redes sociais, então fica tudo muito, muito aberto ao público. E o fato de que essas empresas, elas são independentes, elas não dependem da NASA para dinheiro, para nada, elas são realmente independentes, é muito bom. E elas fazem com que tudo isso vire mais uma realidade.
Uhum. Pensando assim no espaço, é possível viver em Marte?
So thinking about space, is it possible to live in Mars?
You know, I am not an expert on like biology or anything like that, and of course this is my personal opinion. All of these are personal opinions. It's not like NASA is behind me, and I don't want to think that if I say something wrong, don't blame NASA. It's me. But I think there are a lot of things that we need to figure out before we start thinking about those, I guess, more philosophical questions. First of all, we have to get to Mars. You know, I think that's the task at hand before we get ahead of ourselves. But also we need to think about other issues that you might encounter. You know, radiation and long duration missions over there are different. Gravity is not a joke. The gravity that we have on Earth has a purpose, and the way that we are is because of that gravity. There will be a lot of changes that need to be made, and at the end of the day, maybe us that we are already grown up, that's a different question if we can live the rest of our lives there. But when you start thinking about maybe getting pregnant and having a baby on Mars, you gotta think of all the differences in biology that you're gonna see, and how I don't even know how some human will grow under that gravity. And I don't think we are the kind of race that thinks about, oh, let's just risk a human and see what happens, because I don't think anybody in the world would feel comfortable knowing that somebody can grow with maybe some disabilities or deficiencies or mutations. I don't know. So yeah, but again, I'm not an expert. That's just what comes to my mind. You know, that gravity really affects a lot of things, and I see Mars as a way of exploration and really understanding more of our past and more of our solar system than trying to get away from Earth or something like that. You know, I think, especially right now that I'm in Brazil and I got to meet a lot of the amazing kids and the things that they are doing, when I come to spend time with them, I realize just how great their minds are, and it really gives me hope that it's gonna be a lot easier for them to find solutions to really challenging problems that are gonna help us to take care of Earth than to try to leave it and start a new planet and a new colony in a different place.
Então ele falou que ele não é um especialista em biologia e que essa é apenas a opinião dele. Na verdade, que tudo que ele está falando é a opinião dele. Ele não fala pela NASA, ele fala por ele. Mas que um grande problema de Marte seria a gravidade e que, sabe, a gravidade da Terra tem um propósito e nós somos do jeito que somos por causa da gravidade da Terra. Então, se, por exemplo, alguém fosse ter um bebê em Marte, como é que esse bebê nasceria, sabe? E que agora nós temos outros desafios. Então, nós temos desafios para enfrentar, como, primeiro, nós temos que chegar a Marte. Sabe? E que o principal objetivo de ir a Marte não é fugir da Terra, mas é entender o nosso passado. É explorar o planeta para entender o nosso passado. E
Que eu acho que até que é mais interessante procurar maneiras de salvar a Terra do que abandoná-la em direção a outro planeta. Acho que começa por aí, né?
So he said that it's better for us to try to save the Earth than to run away to another planet.
Yes, and I think maybe, you know, a lot of these are theories or stuff that they think like the rich people are gonna leave us behind or something. I don't know how that works, but other times as well is just to get people excited, you know, that you can do that. But yeah, I think it's nice to get excited. We also just have to always be, we have to stay in reality, you know. It's really fun to think that we can do many things, you know, like travel faster than the speed of light or something, but we gotta be realistic about the things that we can do and take advantage of that, actually, because I don't think it's a bad thing. I think when you understand your limitations, you're able to focus on the things that you can actually do.
Of course.
So if we understand those limitations, we can focus on the things that we actually will be able to achieve by going to the moon and going to Mars more often.
Então ele falou que nós temos que entender os nossos limites e que a gente tem que colocar o pé no chão e isso é algo bom, sabe? Ser mais realistas e que tem várias teorias, né? Que as pessoas ricas iriam deixar a gente para apodrecer aqui na Terra. Mas colocar o pé no chão e entender os limites do ser humano.
E eu juro que eu vou acabar com as minhas curiosidades, assim, eu tô linkando. Mas você acredita, e no caso é uma questão muito pessoal, e não pela NASA, mas você acredita na existência de vida inteligente lá fora?
So he's asking like your personal opinion. Do you believe in like intelligent life outside of Earth?
I guess the fact that I give it a thought, it means that yes, right? But it's always difficult for me to make an assessment of that because I always think of statistics, I always think of the different things that can happen, think how stars develop and different forms of life. I've thought even like, oh, well, we are here based on carbon and stuff like that, and what are the probability that happens in other places? When you actually look at the size of the universe, it's so much going on that I think the probability is really high that some other kind of life has developed like us, and we have to start thinking about different things. Like I said, we have to be realistic. Do I believe there's life in the universe? Yes, I do. I think there's a very high probability there's life in the universe. Is there intelligent life in ovnis that come and visit us all the time? I find it highly unlikely. You know, but when you think about life, you have to think that not all life has to be intelligent. You can have really cells or really kind of like the smallest organisms, right, that can develop in different places and that can use different elements to be alive. So that's, I guess, my take on it.
Então ele falou que sim, ele acredita que tem vida fora da Terra, porque o universo é tão grande. Mas será que isso é uma vida inteligente que vem visitar a gente o tempo inteiro? Muito provavelmente não, sabe? Talvez seja uma vida que é apenas uma célula, sabe? Um organismo simples que funciona por causa de outros elementos. Ele disse que já pensou bastante sobre isso e, nossa, será que eles são completamente diferentes da gente? Muito provavelmente sim, porque qual é a probabilidade de que em outro lugar nasceria...
Humanoide, né?
É.
Não, é curioso isso, porque isso desperta muitas perguntas, né? Você está diante disso. E aí, enquanto você falava, e eu já caminhando para o final do programa, enquanto você falava, eu imaginava algo seguinte, ó. Eu tenho aquela imagem da estação espacial, aquele astronauta olhando o universo. Eu, obviamente, não tenho essa oportunidade, mas assim, imagina, eu já me deparei pensando nisso na praia, olhando o mar. E aí me veio uma pergunta, inevitavelmente a gente pergunta sobre o sentido das coisas. Você é um homem da ciência, você é um engenheiro, que lida com a física, coisa bem concreta. Mas olhando para o espaço, olhando para algo que é muito maior do que qualquer um de nós, como é que lida, por exemplo, com a ideia de Deus, com a ideia de eternidade? Acho que para você é até diferente, né? Mas como é que você lida com isso?
So he said this is something he thinks about, he was thinking about this at the beach, and that you are a man of science, you are an engineer, everything that you work with is very concrete. But as a man of science, how do you think about the idea of eternity and God?
Yeah, I really like this kind of questions because I'm not afraid to say like that. I do believe in God, but I believe it my own way, and I think like everything you have to really think about what you believe and what you think and why you do it. If you blindly go and believe everything that you have heard since you were little, just because that's how you grew up, but you never asked yourself why, and you never made your own opinion about it, then you gotta be careful with those kind of things. But for me, I've always tried to really understand all those questions that I think go really hand in hand with philosophy and how we understand those kinds of things. When you see the Bible and things like that, at least in my opinion, a lot of those things are just are like poetry, you know. Things are explained a certain way because we always try to explain in the easiest way for us to understand. But sometimes you have to understand that those things were also written kind of like humans trying to interpret things that they believed and they saw. And even if you see something like Big Bang, for me, I don't think it's even fight, even though it's science, fighting with religion, because you don't know how things happen, and just like God can do anything, right? He can decide that, oh, that's how I'm gonna start a universe. I'm gonna make like a this big impact, and everything is gonna explode. You know, at the end of the day, there are theories as well. So I don't know. We cannot say that one is more right than the other. But the way I find is that in science and engineering, with all our calculations and the things that we do, and trying to understand the universe, in a way, is that God gave you like this gift that I just feel that the more I understand it, and the more I learn about the universe, and the more I learn about the planets and how we came into existence, the more I believe in God, because it's just so many things, you know. It's just that my interpretation of God or what it is, you know, I'll never be certain. I can just like have a theory. Is he human? Is he like energy? Is he what is he, right? And I don't think I'll never know. but I think science at least helps me understand what he made, you know.
Então ele falou que ele não tem medo de falar que ele acredita em Deus, e quanto mais ele estuda, mais ele acredita em Deus, sabe? Ele não acha que tem que ser essa luta ciência, religião, porque, por exemplo, o Big Bang, Deus é Deus, ele pode ter resolvido começar o universo desse jeito, sabe? Vou fazer essa grande explosão. E ele falou que não sabe exatamente o que é Deus, e ele acha que nunca vai saber. Será que ele é como a gente, ou será que ele é energia? Mas que ele acredita, assim.
Certa vez eu lembrava até com a aula com Teresa, na sala de aula, a gente estudava sobre Galileu. E Galileu, ele, não vou lembrar, obviamente, a citação inteira do livro, mas ele falava algo como: o universo é um grande livro que foi criado por Deus, e os caracteres são os números, né? A matemática, a geometria. Acho que esse é o ponto, né? Acho que tem algo ali para ser visto.
So he remembered a class we had, he taught me, that he talked about a quotation by Galileo, that he says that the universe is a book written by God, and the characters that it was written in is the numbers, you know, so, you know, math.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think all of those things are kind of beautiful. And I think the more you get into it, and the more you get into mathematics and all these things, can get you closer as well. Like, or fall apart. You know, at the end of the day, we'll never know who's right or wrong. The important thing is that you are at least a good person on earth. You know, whatever you do, be a good person, follow your dreams, be passionate about something, and contribute something good to society.
Então ele falou que a coisa mais importante de todas é que você seja um bom ser humano e ache uma paixão e contribua para o mundo. E teve outra coisa que ele falou que eu esqueci de falar, mas ele falou que a Bíblia ele vê como poesia, que era como a maneira que aquelas pessoas estavam interpretando o universo.
Não,
eu
perfeito,
achei isso bem bonito.
Sandoval, muito obrigado. Obrigado, cara, que Tereza, muito obrigado.
Obrigada.
Que papo legal, cara. Eu confesso que eu tava muito nervoso. Tava muito ansioso para ter essa conversa com vocês. Obrigado, Eli. Obrigado, estagiário. Mas, mais uma vez, obviamente, só vou deixar o espaço para você se despedir, deixar alguma mensagem.
So he thanked you for being here. He confessed that he was very nervous to interview you. And now he's going just to leave a space for you to say whatever you want.
Oh, thank you. It was, like I said, it was an honor for me to be here, to be invited to your podcast. I think it's just really important to spread the message of what everybody can do, right? I think my story is one of many. I am definitely not the only person from Latin America that is doing great things at NASA or anywhere else, but mine is one of many, and I wanted to make sure that more can understand that you can really dream big, and that you can believe in yourself, and that if you have like this crazy dream that everybody thinks you're crazy. I was that guy. Back in the day, nobody thought I was gonna even leave my city or go to one of great university, and I ended up doing it and working for NASA. So just to put it in perspective, I started that dream when I was 17 years old. That's when I left Mexico. I knew very little English, and 5 years later is when I got hired by NASA at 22. So in 5 years, I went from not knowing English to working for NASA. I think you can really do anything in your life. I guess I'm gonna say it, I'm not like an influencer or anything like that. At least I don't consider myself that. But I always try to like get in touch with people, especially if they have questions about what they want to do with their future, and they can follow me on Instagram at Sergio _ Sandoval. And yeah, usually like if you send me a message, I'll answer it. But all of this I do it just because 10 years ago I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and now I'm working with NASA, and I just love talking with everybody that has dreams but that doesn't know how to make them a reality.
Então ele falou que a história dele é uma de várias e que o importante é que você sonhe grande e confie em si mesmo. Ele saiu da cidade dele, no México, com 17 anos, mal sabendo falar inglês, e 5 anos depois ele foi contratado pela NASA. Ele falou no Instagram dele, que é @Sergio
Vai ficar disponível,
Sandoval, que vai ficar disponível, e disse que qualquer pessoa pode mandar uma mensagem para ele, qualquer pessoa que tenha um grande sonho, mas que não sabe como atingir esse sonho. Ele adora falar sobre isso. Ele disse que ele não é um influencer, mas pode falar com ele, que ele gosta muito dessa conexão entre pessoas.
Muito bom. E você, gostou?
Eu amei. Muito obrigada, Asley, Eli e Ricardinho, por ter me dado essa oportunidade. Thank you, Sergio, for being here. You're amazing. Minha mãe tá chorando. Muito obrigada, de verdade.
Não, imagina, eu que agradeço. A sua gentileza foi...
Não.
Na verdade, você foi convocada, né?
É.
Ele não perguntou assim, seria legal levar a Tereza. Tipo, Tereza vai.
Não, ele falou, você vai.
Exato.
Mas muito obrigada,
Foi
Eli.
providencial. Gente, obrigado de verdade. E obrigado a vocês que acompanharam até aqui esse papo maravilhoso. Tô muito, muito satisfeito com o que a gente fez aqui hoje. Foi muito bonito. E, obviamente, se você curtiu esse conteúdo, não deixe de se inscrever no canal do Sapiens, compartilhar, deixe seu comentário aqui, a gente lê todos os comentários, a gente tá adorando o feedback nas redes sociais, seja no Instagram, seja no YouTube, seja no TikTok, seja também no Spotify. Então, muito obrigado e, como é um clássico, até o próximo episódio.